United States human rights groups have criticized the reinstatement of a Trump-era policy requiring asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their claims are processed. Argentine President Alberto Fernandez said progress is being made in the talks with the International Monetary Fund to refinance a $44 billion debt. Polls are open in Gambia, and the first vote since former head of state Yahya Jammeh was ousted from power in 2016. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Diego Martin, from the TeleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. United States human rights groups have slammed the reinstatement of a Trump-era policy requiring asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their claims are processed. The American Immigration Council said it was a dark day for the U.S. and the rule of law. President Joe Biden has suspended the policy but was ordered by courts to resume it. The Biden administration has kept up other major Trump-era border policy, Title 42, which allows for the quick expulsion of asylum seekers on public health grounds, a measure it has used to deport thousands of Haitians. Under the Stay in Mexico policy, thousands of people were forced to stay in dangerous conditions on the Mexican border for months, where they sometimes fell prey to criminal gangs. According to charity organization Human Rights First, there have been more than 1,500 publicly reported cases of kidnapping, rape, torture, and other abuses against asylum seekers returned to Mexico. In Chile, a recent poll revealed that the presidential candidate for the leftist Apruebo Dignidad coalition, Gabriel Boric, would become president if the elections were held this Sunday. The latest poll showed that Boric was set to secure 54% of the votes compared to 46% for his far-right opponent, José Antonio Cast. The poll also showed that the approval rating for current President Sebastián Piñera is just 18%. The survey was conducted between November 25th and 29th on adults throughout the country. Chileans go to the polls for the second-round presidential vote on December 19th. Peruvian President Pedro Castillo called for the unity of the population and summoned all the country's political parties to dialogue, while stressing that he will defend democracy no matter the cost. The head of state has seen a series of attacks by right-wing sectors, including calls for his impeachment, as the traditional political parties of the country seek to make it impossible for him to govern. Castillo denounced a widespread corruption among the political elite and the smear campaign against his government, led by opposition sectors and the media. He also stated he would stand firm in reviewing the contracts with private companies that manage public resources and reiterated the intention to renegotiate contracts with a transnational consortium that exploits the Camisea gas fields.
Therefore, I would like to announce that I have taken the decision to summon the leaders of the political parties represented in the Congress of the Republic, so that starting tomorrow, they can come to the President's office to discuss the major issues that the country is facing, such as reactivating the economy, how to fight the pandemic, the actions and responses to the earthquake in Amazonas, and also to see about political stability and governance.
The Brazilian Attorney General's office has opened 6 preliminary investigations into alleged crimes committed by President Jair Bolsonaro during the pandemic. In total, there were 10 complaints for non-compliance with preventive health measures during the COVID-19 crisis presented to the Supreme Federal Court. These investigations are a consequence of the conclusions reached by the Parliamentary Investigation Commission of the Senate, which investigated the government's management during the pandemic after 6 months of work. In addition, there is already a complaint for embezzlement in the purchase of the Covaxin vaccine that is investigated by the federal police based on a report from a Supreme Court magistrate. The prosecutor's office will also investigate the conduct of the current defense minister, a former health minister, and Senator Fabio Bolsonaro, son of the president, among others. The 2021 Cuba Business Forum, the most important event of the year for the country in terms of trade and investment, concluded on Friday after 4 years of exchanges among representatives of various organizations and sectors. The event gathered about 3,000 participants from 86 countries, including government officials, chambers of commerce, trade and investment agencies, and Cuban foreign business people who followed the sessions online, seeking to strengthen and establish new relationships. The final day of sessions included an exchange with foreign companies about business opportunities in Cuban tourism, the biopharmaceutical industry, agricultural, and renewable energies. The forum also included a panel dedicated to the opportunities for Cuban nationals living abroad to do business and invest in the country.
A total of 1,162 appointments were arranged between visitors and participants through the forum's platform. Qualitatively, the second business forum was also superior, as it included presentations by distinguished protagonists of the main transformations taking place in the country and panels where the current issues of our economy were addressed.
And Cuba celebrates Latin American Medicine Day this Friday, a date on which it paid tribute to all medical and health workers. The day commemorates the birth in 1833 of the famous Cuban epidemiologist and researcher Carlos Juan Finlay, who discovered the agent that transmits yellow fever, the Aedes aegypti mosquito. This year's celebration paid particular tribute to all those who have fought against the COVID-19 pandemic, including the scientists that developed the Cuban vaccines against the virus, while Cuba's solidarity with other nations in this struggle is recalled. Cuba has also played a leading role in training medical staff for the region as its Latin American School of Medicine. We'll be right back after this very short break. Don't go anywhere. Argentine President Alberto Fernandez said progress is being made in the talks with the International Monetary Fund to refinance a $44 billion debt. The country is also demanding an evaluation of the 2018 loan, the largest ever granted by the organization, as a step prior to the agreement.
We will face the debts that others have generated. This agreement will not be at the expense of the country's development or based on any adjustment program. We continue to negotiate with the International Monetary Fund with firm steps and a steady pulse. The debt problem is not a problem of Alberto Fernandez's government. It is a problem of Argentina as a whole. We are not working to get rid of a problem. My responsibility is to work so that the debt does not postpone Argentine development any longer. Growth is needed to fulfill the commitments taken on. Any other logic is only a chimera.
And this Friday marks the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, with the calls this year to address the disproportionate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the sector of the population. The theme for the International Day this year was leadership and participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. Approximately 15% of the world's population lives with some form of disability, 80% of whom live in developing countries. Marginalization, discrimination, vulnerability, and exploitation are everyday factors for many people living with disabilities. The pandemic has magnified the problems faced, including the reduced access to routine health care and rehabilitation services, more pronounced social isolation, inadequately constructed mental health services, and a lack of emergency preparedness for people with special needs. In El Salvador, several protests were held on the occasion of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Different organizations rallied in front of the presidential palace to demand that Nayib Bukele governments respect and fulfill disability rights. Specifically, protesters are demanding that President Bukele and the Council of Ministers comply with the law on the inclusion of people with disabilities, which was enacted in January of this year. The protesters blocked the main road in front of the building after the government refused to meet with them. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi co-chaired the third ministerial meeting of the Forum of China and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States alongside his Mexican counterpart Marcelo Ebrard on Friday. The meeting was held by video link and served not only to highlight economic ties but also cultural and technological cooperation, as well as initiatives linked to caring for the environment. In the first 3 quarters of 2021, trade between China and the Latin American and Caribbean region amounted to over $300 billion, a remarkable increase of 45.5% year-on-year, according to the latest data. In the past years and in the context of the pandemic, trade cooperation with China has been intensified thanks to China's decision to exchange experience in the scientific field and to donate and deliver medical supplies. The China-CELAC Forum also supports the principles of foreign relations based on win-win cooperation, mutual respect, non-interference in the internal affairs of countries, and cooperation for regional growth. Chinese President Xi Jinping addressed the third ministers' meeting of the Forum of China and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States via video link on Friday, noting the mutual benefits of cooperation.
History tells us that peaceful development, fairness and justice and win-win cooperation are the right path for mankind. Both China and Latin American countries are developing countries and are comprehensive cooperative partners with equality, mutual benefit, and common development. The common dream of independence, development, and rejuvenation unites us closely. Let us jointly draw up a blueprint for China-Latin America relations, add momentum to China-Latin America cooperation, and make new contributions to enhancing the well-being of the Chinese and Latin American people and the cause of human progress.
The China-Laos Railway, a landmark project linking China's Belt and Road Initiative with Laos's strategy of transforming itself from a landlocked to a land-linked country, officially began operations this Friday and is expected to boost a thriving trade both in and between both nations. Data from China's Commerce Ministry shows that bilateral trade volume last year reached more than $3.5 billion US. China has become Laos's second largest trading partner and its biggest source of direct foreign investment. Now, the China-Laos railway line is expected to create even greater potential for cooperation. Logistics costs by train are far lower than other means of land transportation, and rail transportation is also much faster. In 2016, the governments of both countries created an economic cooperation zone in the border region covering Mohan and neighboring Botan. The zone's management authorities say the project will inject greater vigor and vitality into its development. And Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has ruled out expelling European Union diplomats in response to the new sanctions imposed on his country by the bloc. The president noted that any response to the latest measures will be in accordance with international norms and indicated that Minsk will take measures to limit the impact of Western sanctions on the population. Tensions between Minsk and the European Union have escalated due to a sudden interest within the bloc regarding the numbers of people trying to cross into Poland from Belarus, in what the EU has labeled a migration crisis. Instead of offering shelter and the possibility of asylum to those trying to enter the European Union, the bloc has sought to blame Belarus for the situation. Russian communists laid wreaths at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Moscow on Saturday to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Moscow during World War II. Communist Party members also laid wreaths at the mausoleum of former Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin, commemorating the counterattack of Soviet troops against German invaders during World War II, which didn't allow Nazis to capture the city in 1941. Vladimir Kashin, the deputy head of the Communist Party, said the heroes of this battle allowed modern Russia to live freely. He also noted the importance of remembering World War II amidst the reported buildup of troops near the Ukrainian border. Ukrainian and Western officials recently voiced alarm about a Russian troop buildup near Ukraine, saying they feared it could herald an invasion. Moscow has denied planning to invade and accused Ukraine and its Western backers of fabricating claims to cover up their own aggressive designs. That wasn't.
While world capitalists are concentrating modernized fields at the borders of our motherland, we have to return once again both to our victories and losses during the Great Patriotic War.
We have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to From the South. Polls are open in Gambia in the first vote since dictatorship. Gambians are casting their ballots on Saturday in their first presidential election since former head of state Yahya Jammeh was ousted from power in 2016 after 22 years. Jammeh, who ruled the small West African country with an iron fist, fled to Equatorial Guinea after refusing to concede defeat to a coalition led by current President Adama Barrow. These elections are a test for the country's young democracy, with 5 political parties and 1 independent candidate competing for a 5-year term in the State House in the capital, Banjul.
This man, I want to go out. Ask Gambia people suffer. It is expensive. Anything is expensive.
Very important to vote. Yeah, because your vote is your voice. So it's very important to vote. I'm appealing for every Gambian to come out and vote.
And the talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal in Vienna have paused so that European diplomats can review the proposals made by Iran. The talks are expected to resume on Monday, according to diplomatic sources. Iran submitted 2 draft proposals for the nuclear agreement, which include the lifting of U.S. sanctions, a move the nation has stressed is not negotiable. Talks resumed in the Austrian capital on Monday after a 5-month break. as European powers seek to salvage the deal that has been in tatters since the U.S. unilaterally withdrew in 2018.
Because we have substantial challenges ahead. Time is not unlimited. There is an obvious sense of urgency, and again, we have not much time and a lot of work to do.
Despite the fact that no breakthrough, even far from it, but we should not belittle what we have achieved. In the middle of next week, because what they are supposed to take a stock of the situation of this round of negotiation for the past week, and also on this basis seek further instructions from their respective capitals. So it's very natural and very necessary for them to do that. We hope that all these will help provide a further political impetus to the negotiations restarted in the middle of next week.
South African scientists have concluded that the current vaccines work against severe COVID-19 caused by the Omicron variant. The Network for Genomic Surveillance in South Africa presented the preliminary results of a study into the Omicron variant to the Health Committee of the South African Parliament, noting that vaccines are the tool that can prevent the disease from becoming severe and requiring hospitalization. Preliminary advances in the study indicate that PCR testing can tell whether infection is with a new mutation without having to segment the genome. South Africa is experiencing a surge in COVID cases in what scientists believe is the start of a fourth wave of the pandemic. Mexico has confirmed its first case of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has called for calm and told citizens to trust in vaccines.
There is a Mexican who was in South Africa admitted to a private hospital with symptoms of COVID. They did the test, and apparently it is already this new variant. It has already become clear that the vaccine does protect against all variants, so there should be no concern, and much less sensationalism.
The emergence of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus is the ultimate evidence of the danger of unequal vaccination rates around the world, the head of the Red Cross said on Friday.
Omicron variants and what is happening after, the emotional reaction, the isolation of South Africa without thinking about the level of vaccination in the African countries, while the scientific community has warned the international community in several occasions about the risk of having new variants in the places where there is a low rates of vaccinations. Should be studied is this selfish approach coming from the Western community, because this is really a blind approach to the international dynamics. Only watching our own side of the world, because I say our because I live in a Western country, and it's unbelievable that we are not realizing how much we are interconnected. This is why I call the Omicron variants the ultimate evidence. This is about this kind of approach also.
The World Health Organization disclosed that it still has no reports of Omicron-related deaths as scientists work to establish how serious a new variant could be.
Not seen reports of Omicron-related deaths yet. Talking about Omicron, let's also not forget that the predominant variant right now still remains the Delta variant. So Omicron may be on the rise, and we may come to a point where it takes over to be the dominant variant, but at this point, the very dominant variant remains Delta. And we have to protect ourselves against Delta, against COVID-19, and the measures that work against Delta work so far, as we know, mostly also against Omicron.
We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also follow us on social media for the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I am Leo Martin. Thank you for watching.